it's when I've got this on that I then begin for the first time in the evening, which is an exciting moment for me, to lose myself, which is what I love doing, playing this character. I'm not an authority on Geoffrey Bernard at all. I don't actually know that much about him. I've learnt a lot about him studying this play. I also saw it in the West End with O'Toole. Right, the finishing touches. Now I'm Geoffrey Bernard, except I've got the bloody smoke in my eye. Jesus Christ. Fuck!
I mean, the best person to have ever played Geoffrey Bernard is myself. I've been playing it for 63 years, for God's sake. I know the part quite well. Nasty part it is, too.
He was born in 1932, probably by mistake, and covered from head to foot in eczema. One of the first things he did was wet the bed, which he continued to do until he was 15. A weak, thin-skinned and oversensitive boy, he had few friends at school. He usually chose to sit at the very back of the classroom so that he could play with himself unobserved. This early obsession with sex prevented him from obtaining any worthwhile academic honours. And by the time he left school, he had become a chain smoker and a compulsive writer of letters to Veronica Lake. In 1946, he paid his first visit to Soho, and from that point on, he never looked forward.
But drinking was always a very big part of Soho, and I suppose that my love affair with the bottle started at the same time as my love for Soho. The two went hand in hand, and eventually I started writing a column about it. This column became known as Low Life. It was a pub life, a club life. It was a heavy drinking school, and I enjoyed every minute of it. In the beginning, I started drinking because I was very, very desperate to be grown up. All the people I first met in Soho, when I first came to Soho, I was in the school holidays, I was still at school. And I didn't like being a schoolboy. I wanted to be grown up and smoke cigarettes and knock back whiskies like Humphrey Bogart and go to bed with beautiful women.
And what an incredible mixture of people I've had the luck to stumble across. Poets, painters, prostitutes, bookies, runners, philosophers, crooks, Dylan Thomas, Francis Bacon, Lucian Freud,
Peter O'Toole, Graham Greene, what have you, John Osborne. I mean, it's... there are a lot of very good memories there. It's a sort of awful museum, isn't it? It's a personal museum in a way. There aren't any really recent pictures. I wrote last week that my face now reminds me of a crumpled shroud. It's like something out of a terrible M.R. James ghost story. Tough tip. The Spectator column gets more and more difficult because I don't get out and about so much. Jessica turns up, and then I've got to do it. There she is, paid to put it down on paper, so, you know, there's no messing about anymore.
Hi, Jeff.
Hello. Nothing to write about, as usual.
Have you been out?
I went out to lunch at Simpson's with our new editor, Frank Johnson. But the fifth week, still nothing to write about. I don't know what. The only thing I know about is myself. I think I'm quite good on the subject of loss, generally speaking. I know what it's like to lose on horses. I know what it's like to lose women and to lose love and affection through one's own silly fault, which in my cases has been drinking. Maybe I'm there for that. Maybe I'm so depressing and awful that it cheers the readers up. I wonder how you'd write a column if you were a hostage. I'm a hostage.
Norman, will you please answer your bloody phone? I'm locked in your sodding pub and drinking all your vodka. And another thing, there's no ice. Not that that would move him, the ungracious bugger. When I asked him for the menu yesterday, he threw it at me. And then when he brought my cottage pie, I thought he was going to throw that at me too. Instead, he said to the bloke who was sitting on that stool there, "Get off your ass and let Jeff sit down, he's fucking ill." I am fucking ill too.
It started off with a blister. My right foot. And it wouldn't heal. And eventually it necrosed and the whole thing was dead and numb, and then it was a question of gangrene. And so he had to, Mr. Cobb had to take it off. He came in one lunchtime to my little side ward and said, "I'm afraid I'm going to have to take your leg off this afternoon." I said, "When?" He said, "Tea time." Made it sound like a sort of quite a nice little social occasion. Of course, I was furiously angry because I knew it would mean that I couldn't run up and down various steps to various clubs and restaurants again. We were rather shy of each other when I first met Vera. I'd never had a home help before. I didn't know anything about it, and one day I mentioned my palm tree needed watering. I said, "I think it needs a drink." So she went to the kitchen and came back with a jug of water and watered it. And as she was doing so, she turned round to me and she said, "I suppose you want a bloody drink as well." And at that instant, I knew that I'd found a friend who understood and could absolutely see right through me. I really love Vera. She's a good woman. Very, very kind. We occasionally have a little break and talk a little bit of filth together, which reminds me of the old days.
As a spectator always puts it when I'm too fucking ill to write my column.
Geoffrey Bernard is unwell.
No, I tell a lie. It doesn't invariably put it that way. It has been known to put it another way.
Geoffrey Bernard's column does not appear this week. It is remarkably similar to that which he wrote last week.
Why do you drink so much, Mr. Bernard?
To stop myself from jogging.
What is odd now is that I've become almost bored with drinking, which is a strange thing for an addict to say about his addiction. I don't go into the Coach and Horses much anymore. I mean, Norman's very good. If I phoned up and said, "Look, I'm desperate to come and have a drink," he'd come and get me, or he'd send a barman to come and push me. But the same as restaurants, it's getting into the gents. Norman's had a new gents built. Typical of him, it's not wide enough for a bloody wheelchair. I mean, really, I'll give up.
Well, that's my choice, not to.
Big moment. You look at this.
Blue Peter is coming up.
Oh dear.
No alcohol wine. I think that's a bit disgusting. Do you agree?
Basically, alcohol is an integral part of wine. It's not a very big part, but it's an integral part.
Who the hell's that?
Hocus pocus, 1, 2, 3, take us back in history!
Dear God. I've been married 4 times altogether. Well, my first wife was a disastrous thing that only lasted a few weeks. After we'd been separated for quite some time, she committed suicide. She was very unhappy, as well as unstable, and she was lovely. And I've subsequently been married 3 more times. Every time I thought for good, and I really meant it. I kept walking into these sunsets, but who should be there when I got to them but myself? I'm sure I couldn't fall in love again. I've run out of it. Like a car running out of petrol.
Avocado! Avocado! Lovely bit of Monster, French beans, aubergine, Corsac broccoli and asparagus!
Right. Hi, girls. Racehorses, vodka, Soho, and a sprinkling of disgruntled women seem to be the ingredients of a life made even more boring by the fact that at last I'm getting desperately fed up with existing on one leg. Yesterday, my wheelchair got stuck in the narrow doorway of my kitchen and I could have screamed. I'm also wondering where the ladies are who I was told would still like me for myself, horror of horrors, and not give a fig about my only having one leg, or at least 1.5 legs.
Don't want a parrot and all, dear. I keep you company.
I don't know what you're going to do, Vera. Some graceful loops.
Hang on.
Let it sag.
Does that look all right?
Oh, that's very good, Vera. That's just right.
Think so?
Yeah. No, I didn't get any mistletoe, did I? Would that?
No.
I suppose that would have been rather optimistic of me.
We'll pick some up in the week.
Might not be able to wait that long. I get incredibly bored. Sometimes very lonely. Thank you.
Yeah, bye.
Bye. I think I'm a sort of object of curiosity that's only visited, as I think George Melly once said, like an animal that's in a safari park that is about to become extinct. I get visitors. I don't always get the visitors I want. But that's asking slightly too much, isn't it? I'm not, I don't expect Sharon Stone to run upstairs any time.
And life does go on, despite proof to the contrary. Last week, I had an erection.
Have
was so amazed I took its photograph. Life after death, what more could you want?
A certain amount of loneliness is beginning to creep into my life, very different from being alone, which I like. And it's prompted me to put an advertisement into the personal column of The Spectator, stating quite simply, alcoholic, diabetic amputee seeks sympathy fuck. Originally, I blamed the loss of a leg, making me far less attractive to ladies, but I mean, I am a bit of a realist, and I look in the mirror and I see that's not the reason why. I mean, the reason why is because I just look bloody awful and old. So I don't really think it's got much to do with the leg. After all, I have got a knee, so I'm physically quite capable of something as simple as the missionary position. It's dry, isn't it?
Yeah, it is actually. I'll put some cream on that and change your salt.
Yeah. The blister's gone from the toe.
Yeah, that looks good. It's nice and dry. Can you turn your foot for me? Your foot's very cold, actually, Jeff.
Yeah, is it? Can't feel it. The medical profession don't know why I'm still alive. They said I dropped dead in 1965, the first time I got pancreatitis, if I had another drink. I'm very lucky to be physically as resilient as I am. And all I've really got from it is diabetes and one leg off. Could be worse. I don't know about the other leg. I suppose that's due.
Have you had a drink today?
One. So far.
Has Vera been in?
Yeah?
Decided what you're going to get her for Christmas?
I can't think. I can't imagine. God, there's only a few days left, aren't there? Everything's got to be within reach, otherwise it's a boring little problem. People physically talking down to you all the time. I mean, a party's terrible. You're sitting in a wheelchair and all you can see is a complete sea of arses.
Don't scream. You've had your insulin, I can see. Yeah. That's the main thing. I mean, you know, Jeff, don't you, yourself, how you feel?
Yeah.
And there's no good me nagging or anything, because it won't make any difference. You'll just do what you want.
I should miss being nagged if you didn't nag me.
I think this has been left here for my benefit. One of those crappy articles on the subject of alcoholism. Do you have a drinking problem? Usual list of odd questions. And if the answer is yes, then there is serious cause for alarm. The trouble is, the more I read the questions, the less alarm I feel. In fact, I have just this minute come to the conclusion that I don't drink enough.
Hello?
Hello, Jeff, it's Bill. Jeff and I first met about almost 25 years ago in an alcoholism unit, appropriately called St. Bernard's, in a Victorian lunatic asylum.
Yes, and Bernard's right spelling, wrong pronunciation. He's come better through it. Bill hasn't had a drink now for, what, 10 years? I've, on and off, in those last 20 years, I've made feeble attempts to stop drinking. Now I've even given up making attempts to stop.
Do you have time off work for drinking, or does your work performance suffer because of alcohol?
The situation is very much in the reverse. Work frequently interferes with my drinking. In fact, drinking is my work. I was once paid £500 to write an article on this very subject.
Do your
just a
family...
minute, I haven't finished yet.
I remember you didn't deny your alcoholism at St. Bernard's, as many of us did. You were quite clear what your problem was.
Did people deny it?
A lot
I don't
of us,
remember that.
yes. And a lot of us went on to try controlled drinking.
But there was a lunatic, and I remember a little Indian man who claimed he was an alcoholic, and he wasn't at all, because he was there, he was worried. He'd had 2 lagers, one lunchtime, in his lunch break, 2 lagers. And he's there taking up room in a nut house. Incredible. Well, he obviously was mad. If he thought that 2 lagers was the end of the world.
And are you becoming difficult and irritable and testy after drinking?
You've got to be joking. I'm impossible.
Yes, I thought I'd reached rock bottom at St. Bernard's. But there again, you see, like a lot of alcoholics, I think that I was dramatising myself. I do think alcoholics tend to do that. Thanks to people like Hemingway and Faulkner, who built it into some sort of romantic legend. It's just a bloody nuisance drinking too much. Not fun.
I once had to fire my agent for being pissed all the time. I said to her, one of us has to be sober, and it certainly isn't going to be me.
Do you find that your sexual drive and ambition is slacking afterwards?
I don't fucking business.
You've always said that alcohol is the other woman in your life.
That's what Sue said, my most recent ex-wife. She's your first loyalty. Of course it is the other woman, yeah.
Yes, it's a relationship, not just a drink.
No. Yes, that's it. It's a relationship.
Or a love affair.
A love-hate affair.
And do you find...
Sorry, no more questions. It'll soon be opening time in Billingsgate.
Oh, really? You make me sick.
I've always liked Jeff as representing something about England before it started to fall apart. You know, something from the 50s, before... I don't think he writes just about the decline of Jeff. I think he writes very well about the decline of England. And I always think of the 50s coming to see Jeff, which is nice. And it's aversion therapy as well.
Sometimes when the lifts stop on the landing where we smokers gather, the doors open and there is no one inside or anywhere about. But the lift is not as empty as the onlookers think. I know that inside there stands the Grim Reaper on a scouting mission looking for new recruits. Why he has consistently overlooked me during the past 6 years is something of a mystery to me. What would I like to happen to me when I die? It depends what one's idea of heaven is. I've got a horrible feeling it could even be like a sort of... It's probably designed by someone like Terence Conran. I think there's a lot of chrome metal and mirrors and white paint. You probably can't get served properly. Don't sell cigarettes. This is assuming, of course, there is an afterlife, which I don't think there is, unfortunately. I don't like the idea of just a blank. I'm very frightened of being old, ill, and broke at the same time. That would be unbearable. The most I could possibly hope for in the future is maybe contentment and a painless death. That would be, again, something to drink to if there was time.